This is the One Step Better podcast. Helping small businesses make wins each and every week. Hey everybody, welcome back to the One Step Better podcast. Today we're going to continue talking about mistakes that small business owners make. And today's going to be one that is pretty relevant in this world, and that is I'm trying to hire somebody. I need a new hire for whatever reason. It could be because my business is growing. It's because job turnover type of situation, whatever it is. And the feeling, the sense of I'm competing against a bunch of other employers that can do more than I can do. So common thing that we hear is I'm trying to fill a role and I've interviewed this person and I'm up against large business and they had this big benefits package and this whole training plan and this onboarding path and like they have everything figured out and I'm just trying to get somebody to come and do some more work. And it's a tension that I think a lot of small businesses face, especially as it relates to growing businesses that have a role that identified that they need to fill that maybe hasn't been filled previously. And so we're going to talk about all those things and hopefully come to some common ground on ways in which we can work through that a little bit better as small business leaders. And so Matt, over the course of your firm here, you have had to hire a bunch of people in roles that you didn't quite have figured out yet.
Very much so.
What was it like whenever you identified, I need a person to do X, Y, Z, but I also don't know exactly what that role looks like on a daily basis or even maybe big picture?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple roles. Obviously, I came from an accountant background, so those roles were probably something I could identify more. But it's the other roles, let's say a sales role that I've never identified, had never done before. I know what I would like the result to be, but I don't have all the factors that go into the input to make that results happen. There's a little bit of selling on the, hey, we're going to all figure this out together. Mm-hmm. We're in this together to figure out what makes sense. I'm going to rely on your expertise coming that, I'll use Shelby example. Shelby had sold something before when we hired her, but selling a service wasn't something she had done. But I knew that she knew okay, I need to have these activities to kind of get to the part of an appointment. So we kind of worked together as a team to figure out what do we think will be our approach to being successful with the result we want to achieve. Anna is a good example of that. I don't know jack squat about videography, but I also knew that, hey, this person has what I think is a wonderful bunch of resources from her past work experiences and her education to get us to where we want to have a result of providing really high quality content in a very professional way with a regularity and ease. I hope that she felt, hey, what resources do you need and what impact can we have? A very clear understanding of what we want the results to be. It's hard, though, if you don't really know what your results you are expecting are. So I don't know what expectations for a salesperson were. Is it 1 deal a month? Is it 500 deals a month? Should your quota be, I need to do $1,000 a month in billing, or I need to do $100,000 a month? I don't know those things. So we're trying to figure out that stuff, at least on a logical basis, as much as we can. But we're very clear in our conversation with the person, like, hey, we don't have all this stuff figured out, but we know that we have the same goal in mind to try to get to a result that we all think is achievable.
I think it's important to lean into that and even be upfront about that to the person you're hiring to say, look, this is a new role. You're a new employee. I think that I have some of this stuff thought out well. There's probably a lot of things I haven't thought about very well, especially if that person is coming with some experience in a similar role. I would be upfront to say, look, you're going to know certain things about this role more than I do, and that's perfectly fine. Most of the things that you in this role that you're going to do, you know more than I do about it. And that's perfectly fine. I'm here to support you, help you. What I can do, what I can provide is guidance on who we are, what we're trying to accomplish, what we think that outcome looks like, what we think the inputs are to get to the outcome. But ultimately, you're a valued person here, and you're going to have a big say in shaping what this role looks like in the future of this role. And in doing that and being upfront about that, I think it changes the type of person that you would end up hiring. And it's really important for small business to lean into that. I know one of my struggles, not even just new roles, but explicitly in new roles, is I want to jump in and try to figure out how that person that's being hired in that role is going to do their job. And I want to try to somewhat nitpick, all right, this is your daily task. This is what you should be doing. And I'm doing that honestly out of a place of incompetence and ignorance. But I want to try to put a little pretty little box around this so that that person that's going to come into that role, I could just say, here's your pretty little box all wrapped up in a bow, execute, execute, execute. And I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm pretending like I do know what I'm doing. And that's just going to create more tension.
And this may go back to your Colby versus mine. I think you're more of a fact finder, and you want to figure out something before you kind of go start it. And I'm the reverse. I have like no fact finder, and I'm a high quick start. Like my first inclination is like, I think I like this person. I think they have the right skills. I think they have all this stuff. All right, let's go figure it out.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out as we go. And that is, well, it's reflective in a couple of things we've done recently. I think I think about how we're looking to hire some new marketing roles, and I'm like. You're like, hey, we need to kind of get this thing figured out first. And I'm like,
parameters.
I need to go see who we got to talk to first, even know what we can even find.
Yeah.
And so they're like, both approaches I think are right. It's the blend of them.
They're just different. Yeah.
But the blend of them is probably the right answer.
Yeah.
Hey, trying to have a little bit more understanding before we start this process probably makes sense. And then also on the back end, like we're going to know that we're going to figure a bunch of new stuff out.
Yeah.
I think of this as the blend of we want to make sure that we are hiring people in a process for us that we know that they are built into the mindset of there's a lot of figure it out. Like they have to have we call figured attitude. Like we don't have all the things figured out, but we all know that we have the mindset of we still know what the results we're trying to achieve are. I think about our training in the very, very beginning when we bring on somebody, we're not really talking about the tactics of how they do their job, but more about like what we believe in, our philosophies, our culture, our values, because those things are the foundation to where we all know that and agree with what the results we're trying to achieve are. There's always that balance, though, of going, man, I probably should have thought about this a lot more before I decided to start interviewing people.
Yeah, I think that's something that really changes over the lifespan of a business. I'll use us as an example. Early on, it was I'm hiring a person because I have a lot of work that needs to get done and I need that person to do the work. And so maybe training whenever we were 10 employees was, hey, you're going to watch me do this for maybe a week, and then you're going to go do this for that next week, and I'm going to watch you do it, and then that third week is you're up and running.
Yep.
And today, when we're close to 40 people, our training looks extremely different from that, where we spend a significantly more time talking about who we are, what we're trying to do from a high level, big picture, mission, vision, values type of thing, and then it's an ongoing training. Realistically, there's always something to learn. But the transition there over time as we've grown has become out of a place of I need people who understand what we're trying to get to, and I'm going to hire people who are smart enough to figure it out to get there in the most efficient, most effective way possible, with still training. But it's kind of coming to the conclusion of I know that we're never going to be able to train every person on our team how to behave, how to respond, how to act in every situation that they will ever come into contact with, right? Like you said earlier, my Colby is high fact find, which means I want to figure out every possible scenario and have a plan for every possible scenario. That's not feasible. It's not possible. And so we've spent a lot more time training on outcome of what we're trying to get to from a big picture. That way, whenever those situations pop up that there isn't specific training on, our team knows how to behave.
One of the things that is really hard in any business as they're growing is usually when you're hiring for people, that means you've got work that needs to get done, and you're constantly balancing how much do we train and develop people versus do we really prioritize, I'll say, the work getting done. That is a challenge that all small businesses run into.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need a cook today because the cook called in again for the fourth time in a row, and we need somebody to work on the shift today. Or if I'm a lawn care guy, I've got 4 crews, and right now 3 of them quit yesterday, and I've got yards to mow today. And yet we're putting people with the impact they're going to go to work right away. How do you foresee that balance of training and development versus having all your processes figured out or having all the people on the team you need to have? How do you slow that stuff down enough so that you can still see some long-term, okay, I got to have the best people on the right team doing the right things the right way with the results we want to have.
I think you have to remove the term versus from that conversation. I think that's where it starts. The reality is you have to have both. I have to have a clear desire to improve my processes, get stuff done, get it done the right way, the way that this, my business is going to do things. I have to have that. And I also have to train my team, educate them, support them to execute on those deliverables, whatever it is, whether it's cutting grass, cooking food, or producing accounting work. I have to have both. Now, I find the hardest part is there's only so many hours in a day. We're all operating under limited resources. And so how do we balance that? For me, that starts with the person that I'm hiring. I need that person to understand that this is not a Fortune 100 company where your first 8 weeks is we're going to fly you to Phoenix and you're going to go through corporate training or whatever it is on how to do your job. And you're going to come back a brand new person that's ready to hit the ground running. That's not what we are. And the person that we're hiring has to understand that. If they're looking for a place where they're going to have 24/7 training and a clear-cut plan of follow steps A through Z and you're going to be awesome, you need to go find a different employer, because that's not going to be us. And it's not about us. That's not going to be small business. I'm not competing for talent that is looking for a clear training path to get up and running in their role. I'm looking for a person who's wanting to come in, make an impact, make a difference, and understand that there's going to be a little bit of vagueness along the way, and they're willing to fill the gaps with their own skills and abilities rather than look for somebody to give them direction.
And I agree with that, with the addition of we are all going to identify the areas that need to be trained and developed on as they become apparent or as we feel that we need skills that we do not have.
Yeah, we have a person that started this week or last week, and he's the second person on our payroll tax team. His training plan is a lot of shadowing and seeing what's going on, but it's also educational video-based stuff. There is a training plan involved, and there are steps along that process. I also expect Alex to raise his hand and say, "Hey, you've asked me to do this, but I don't understand how to do that yet, or you haven't explained how to do that yet," because especially if the trainer is a person that's really familiar with that role and that job, it's become so second nature that you don't think about, well, I guess that, I do that in my sleep. This is the first time you've even seen that in your life. And it's hard to bridge that gap sometimes. So I absolutely want my team to have the freedom. Really, I want them to have that desire, the drive to say, you've asked me to do this, but I don't understand how. And we're going to develop better training, because we're going to document that. We're going to maybe build that into our training plan for the third person. But it's not going to be figured out on day one.
Well, and I think through, the first thing that came to me there is I'd have somebody humble enough as a person who comes on our team to know that it's okay to raise their hand when they don't know something. Yeah. I have to give them the confidence and the belief that they're like, it's okay if I don't know everything. And we're constantly preaching that on our accounting team. I know with the, accounting and tax is super complicated and there's all kinds of things that can happen. It's okay to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know you have the ability though, because you are smart and you are thoughtful and you are empathetic. You're going to go find the answer so you can properly communicate that and raise your hand along the way when you don't know something. That's perfectly fine. It's hard for people to always instill that confidence. People go, I'm supposed to know this. I'm the payroll tax person. I have to know it, or whatever it is. I'm like, no, you have to be able to go know. You need to go know it.
And I think that gets more difficult the bigger your organization is and the more levels of leadership you have. Because when it's just maybe I'm the leader and I have 5 people on my team, I can, all right, this is, do this. And I have my 5 people who know what to do, go. But then whenever you've grown to the point where I'm the leader and I have 3 leaders on my team and they have 15 people underneath them, it's, well, I need to train you on what to do, but I also need to train you on how to lead your team. And those are 2 different things a lot of times, and they're competing priorities sometimes. And so it just gets more and more and more complicated, which is why I think it goes, I have to have the people on my team that are okay with that. They're not going to be frustrated by, hey, you know what? I don't know how to do my job and you haven't told me how to do my job. And it's like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. It's not because I don't want you to succeed. It's because I got 18 other things to do or, to train on or whatever it is. And I just haven't gotten to that thing yet, or haven't thought about that thing, or, whatever it is. It's a delicate balance at all times, that I need people who are going to go. And I also need to teach people how to go.
Yeah, I start thinking through, like, I did not know where this conversation was going to go, but what I start immediately thinking through right now is we constantly talk about the idea we want people to have a learning mindset, or a teacher's mindset. So if we have leaders that I think have a teacher's mindset, in that we understand that people don't understand everything and don't know everything. It's perfectly okay to say, I need help. And I think we also have a mindset around our team as a whole that, hey, it's okay for me to say I don't know, but it's also, I know my expectation is I'm going to be a constant learner. Mm-hmm. I want to have that drive to go figure more stuff out and to figure out a better way. And those are instilled in our values when you think about, all of our, we have the idea of owning it and challenging it. Those are two I think of right away, with the idea of I got to go figure something out and I got to make it happen. And if this isn't making sense to me, I got to go.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. Right. It's not enough to say, I don't know, period.
Correct.
You have to say, I don't know, comma, let's figure it out.
Yeah. And I'm using, I may use a leader as a resource. I may use the internet as a resource. So I could use, a book or whatever it is to figure out what I don't know. But I have to have the mindset that I have to be thinking with I'm going to own this to the point I'm going to go figure out what's up.
Yeah. So along those lines, a lot of times as we're bringing on new roles or even new people in a role, what we learn is maybe their skill set is better suited in a different role. Maybe their skill set is better suited in a more elevated role. Or maybe they, this is not a role that we even know that we'd even need anymore. We got it wrong and things changed. That happens frequently in small business world. How do you go about addressing those situations with the people on your team, both with the new hire, but also the team as a whole?
Those are all a little bit different, right? So identifying a skill that I think they're in a role today that they should be in a different role. We actually have Anna's husband, TJ, in this, right? So he was hired in our SDR role on the sales side, found out really quickly that probably wasn't his passion, but he is super strong with the idea of teaching and helping others. And he was doing that from the sales side, but that doesn't help him make money on the sales side. On the operations side, he does have that customer service, really wanting to impact somebody's ability to use something. And it makes us reposition that conversation with him. We've had people change from an admin role into a specific, into videography. And we didn't know that was her passion when we hired her. And what ends up happening there is they're not content in the role they're in. They're not content. They're trying to find the right fit for them. Mm-hmm. They love the organization that we're a part of. All those things are, though, built around the same logic of when we've identified, either we've identified it or the leaders identified it or the employees, the new hires hired it. It's us understanding what their passions are and where they're trying to, where they think they can help best impact our business. There's a lot of nuance to all those things. Like Kim Pope started off as a staff accountant with us, and she's our director of accounting today. As we identified her strengths in different roles, what also became apparent was some of her weaknesses of, I'm really driven on getting all my work done.
Yeah.
And I also really care about, doing really accurate work. Well, that wasn't always the best case scenario when it come to being a team player, because she's like, my stuff has to get done and it's important. Well,
I can't help you right now. I have a big old stack of work to do.
I've got this work to get done. So I get this done, I get my incentive, or I get my bonus, or my clients are happy, or all this. And she was all in on that. As she changed roles, her passion became apparent that it really is the passion of, I love having a systematized organization that all the stuff's getting done in a routine way, the same way. Well, that wasn't identified until we started seeing it on her own stuff. And so it was the evolution to the point where she said, okay, I see her in a role of, she could systematize her whole organization, not just herself. And when her light switch flipped on that, it was game changing for her and us. And we didn't necessarily know that until we started seeing some traits around it.
I think one of the things that we identified here is that the person that we hire makes a great impact in what
absolutely.
we're doing. And so we don't necessarily have to have all of the things figured out. Bringing on a great hire that has really good skill set and a little bit of a desire to figure some of that stuff out for themselves is going to be really impactful for that small business that is looking to bring on a new role, especially a new person in a role. And so people, we say this all the time, good people make such a difference. Bad people make a difference too, but the right person in the right role is going to be a multiplying effect across the entire organization.
I've gotten asked a lot of times, is it process or people? And there's never a time where people don't fix all your process problems.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Even if you got bad processes, the right person to come in and change them all, make them better anyway.
Yep.
I would much rather have great people, but they're not mutually exclusive. I want great people with great processes.
Yep.
Common issue that small businesses run into is, do I got to have it all figured out before I bring that person in? The answer is no. You don't have to have it all figured out. You gotta have enough to give them some guidelines, some guardrails, and unleash. So thanks for listening. We really appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you click subscribe so that you don't ever miss an episode of the One Step Better podcast. And we will see you next time. Thanks and have a great day. Thanks for listening to the One Step Better podcast. I'd really appreciate it if you would take some time to rate us 5 stars on your podcast player of choice, and make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you never miss out on another episode. Thanks and have a great day.